Okay, we're gonna try this again because Siri was doing her thing. So welcome everyone to the 30-day Black Girls Run official wellness challenge. So what we're going to be focusing on is really changing ourselves as an organization, beginning to learn and educate ourselves more and become a lot more involved in building community. And we really want to welcome all of you to challenging yourselves in your wellness challenges, making your miles meaningful, and learning a little bit more about an organization that's completely about building community and collaboration and making wellness a lot more accessible for everyone. And I'd love to hand this over to Sharon to tell us about Black Girls Run, and then welcome some of our participants and PTs today to talk about why they're doing this challenge and what it means for them. So Sharon, I will hand it off to you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Elena. Thank you, Stride Physio. Thank you, Super Jock and Jill, for thinking about Black Girls Run and collaborating with us on this. So the goal of Black Girls Run is to encourage and motivate women to live healthy lifestyles and embrace fitness in their day-to-day. And they have been, they were established, you know, over 10 years ago when the founders, you know, felt like they were not necessarily included or felt like they belonged at some of the, you know, group runs that they were going to when they were newer runners. And so they decided to just on their own create a community of women to start running. And that's obviously evolved, you know, over time. But, you know, the mission is still really to give women, particularly Black women, a place to run. You know, over that time, we've collaborated with larger organizations who have really embraced and supported us. So we have a really good group of allies that have grown with us, you know, folks like REI, you know, as well as Fleet Feet, and now Stride Physio and Super Jock and Jill here in the Seattle-Tacoma area. So thank you so much. My official title is Ambassador for the Seattle-Tacoma group. And here in Seattle-Tacoma, we have roughly 12,000 women subscribed to our Facebook page. Obviously 1,200 women, 1,200 coming out to our group runs on a regular basis. But that is, you know, basically just kind of a metric to let us know, you know, who might be seeing our post, who we might be able to touch, and who we might be able to motivate. Nationally, Black Girls Run has about 200,000 women. And we have roughly 79 chapters, I believe, almost 80. And again, you know, that just kind of speaks to the fact that, you know, there's a groundswell of women who want to live healthier lifestyles and really thrive on being able to come together and motivate and support each other, you know, through that. Getting started with running, it can be, you know, sometimes, you know, a really kind of a scary thing to do. And so, you know, having folks who can, you know, tell you about, you know, the best shoes to wear, the best bras to wear, what happens when you get injured, you know, when you have shin splints, and those types of things can be really helpful. So, you know, I, you know, do this here in Seattle with a great group of women. I have a co-ambassador. Her name is Jaquanda Nelson, and she really helps support a lot of our activities in the South Puget Sound region. So down through Pierce County, you know, Tacoma and those areas. And we also have run coordinators who are actually women who volunteer like myself to just lead group runs. And so they may do a regular weekly group one that they post on the Facebook page for women to come out to, or they may do a pop-up run if they have time. So we have women who are in the military, women who are in nursing, and you know, they just basically squeeze it in when they have time. And so it's been a great way for us to go out and do larger events together. In some cases, we've traveled to races together. Last year, we coordinated a group trip to Hawaii. where we did a half marathon there. And we've also done things locally as well. You know, we've gone over to Chelan and done runs. We've gone up to Everett and done local runs too, and a lot of the more popular races like the Rock and Roll Run, or you know, some of the runs in Tacoma. So it's a great group of women, and I'm really glad that we're in touch with you guys. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that we do more than just running, right? So we run, but a lot of our participants walk, and we really encourage that because, again, it's about embracing a healthy lifestyle. I'm into yoga as well, so I'm not on the pavement every single day, but I just want to make sure that women are moving every day. And again, just thinking about how they can be the best version of themselves. So.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And I think going off of that, I would like to talk about kind of how we designed the challenge, because it was so much to try to emulate the vision and the mission of Black Girls Run. And the first of it being, we did not create any specific mileage goal. In fact, the mileage goal is yours to, again, emulate Black Girls Run and being accessible for those who want to walk those miles, run those miles, do bear crawl on those miles, whatever those miles are, that we want to make this open and welcome to everyone. And your fitness journey is your fitness journey. And we're just hoping that whatever challenge you choose for yourself is something that's meaningful, something that's healthy, something that works for you right now, and is a way to invite you into this wellness community, and to just bolster yourself within it. The other piece about this is it's 30 days. So we're thinking about what are ways that we create meaningful change in a given span of time. Now there's several different parameters. Sometimes we say it takes up to 3 months to create meaningful habit changes. Others have said 27 days to 28 days, but we definitely wanted to make it longitudinal, that you have this specific time, but we're hoping that whatever you take from this challenge for yourself, that goes forward. And the same thing can be said for the community we create with all of our participants. We have a Facebook group that we would love everyone to join if they would like to, as a way to not just stay connected for these 30 days, to share what you're doing over these 30 days. Maybe you need a little bit of push or support from the community, and all of our physical therapists are going to be on there. Sharon will be on there to just kind of give you a little nudge if you need it, or just remind you that we're just happy you're doing it however you're doing it. And hoping that that community remains active and live going past those 30 days. So we're just hoping that there's some meaningful connections that are built from this. And we're very honored. I know we've just in creating this fundraiser, we've grown so much as an organization and as individuals, just learning about Black Girls Run. I know it's changed my practice and even how I talk with clients about their goals, and even thinking about some barriers that I may not have even been aware of for a reason that they hadn't accessed some of those wellness goals that we really try to push and challenge our patients to get to. So I think that's incredibly important. So over this September challenge, we are going to have a check-in each weekend. You are welcome to join those or not join those, whatever fits for you. And they are at 8 a.m. because our thought was kicking off your weekend, maybe you're about to go for your long run, and we would like to be a resource to either encourage you for those miles, check in with other participants who might be joining, and each session will have an educational component of it. So coming up next weekend, I know it's Labor Day, but I think all of our travel plans are a little stunted these days. We have one of our most exciting Zoom check-ins, and that is with Carrie Copeland. She is the founder of Fit and Fierce. She runs a women's only self-defense boot camp. And what that does is sorry, my Siri loves to keep interrupting me for everything that we're talking about right now. But what's going on with that is she will be going over some tips for self-defense in the community, particularly getting out on trails, particularly if you're a new runner who feels a little uncertain about either running with yourself, running at different hours. It's starting to get a little dark in the mornings. And she's incredible because she does it in a way that hopefully for some of you who might have had triggering events, she really honors that piece of it and also makes it fun. And I know that personally, after taking a seminar with her, I felt very empowered. Coming up the next weekend, We will have one and potentially two hosts talking about community and if we are able to schedule it, one on the effects of running and aging. So running across all stages of life and keeping ourselves well throughout that. And I know that's a particular concern for women where we tend to have some pretty significant body changes that occur in our 40s that often, I know personally with clients, sometimes that can be a time when wellness goals really change. And we really want to be a resource and support for that. Coming in the next weekend, one of the hugest bits, and I'll kind of brush on it today with ways to keep yourself healthy, is the effects of sleep, rest, and recovery. And that's going to be with Lori Gribshaw, one of our physical therapists here. And I think that's going to be one that you might think you know what the implications of all that are, but we really encourage you to sit in because Lori really goes into some incredible systemic things that can come from taking care of ourselves in those ways and even thinking about those as performance markers. And then finally, Ty Witten, who is the manager at Super Jock and Jill, will be bringing us into our final weekend, talking about all of our performance apparel and then the ways that we're supporting ourselves with footwear selection and whatnot, and then kind of rounding out an opportunity for everyone to talk about how they did over this last month, if that's something that they'd like to share. So what I would love to do is turn this over to Levi, to Suzanne, to Dave to talk about why they might be participating, and then Sharon and I might share what our goals are going to be for the next month. So go ahead.
I can go first, if that's okay. Hi, my name is Levi. I'm the marketing coordinator and client care coordinator for Stride Physio. And I am so excited about this fundraiser and also this way for our small community to expand and to connect and get to know other communities with Super Jock and Jill, and especially with the Black Girls Run Foundation as well. So Elena and I kind of worked together to get this ball rolling, and it's been really fun, really exciting, and just a great learning experience as well, and had the pleasure to connect with Sharon as well. So the other reason for me to join was to challenge myself with the thick of COVID and just, you know, the state of uncertainty that we're living in. And with that, a lot of people feel uncertain about their normal social aspects and just their sense of community. And what really appealed to me to join and to pledge is to just push myself, to challenge myself, and to also hopefully inspire others with different wellness and movement goals. Because myself, I'm not a hardcore runner. I'm more of a swimmer, but the pools are closed now. The ocean's too cold for me at the moment. So it's just, you know, where's the happy medium? So for me, I am pledging to do 30 miles in 30 days, whether that's walking or doing a quick sprint occasionally. So it's just for me to just really keep track of my movement and to be inspired to move every single day, even if it's just for a walk to the park after work. So that's kind of my MO for this 30-mile challenge.
All right, and I am the owner of Stride, and part of you can tell by the name, I believe in striding, I believe in running. I have been a runner since 1981. I'm the old gal in the group, I think, and I, you know, I've basically shaped my life around running because it really basically made a huge difference in my world. And I think that you know, as a runner, you go through different waves of like being really intense or not being intense. So I really love this challenge. And when, you know, you know, with COVID and with the Black Lives Matter movement, I can't believe we're living in this time that we are still this unevolved. And I just feel it's imperative that every person in society take personal responsibility of trying to change society to be equal for everybody. So as a runner, I know as a woman runner, I felt back in the 80s, really, it was threatening, especially running alone. And when I can't believe that today that anybody can't just go running and feel safe, and that it's wrong in every way. And whatever we can do to support, you know, the empowerment of, you know, of the Black community, that this should not be happening right now. Everybody should be able to run and be free to exercise and to not have that stress. And I believe in running because it is such a great way of balancing your health and your mental health and your stresses, and that we are supporting a community that is creating that empowerment, and that lifelong health, I think, is so important. So anyway, I'm really excited to partner with you guys, and my personal challenge is I'm hoping to run a half marathon in November. So my challenge isn't exactly mileage numbers, but more like daily habits, right? So I want to do one long run a week. It'll be my Saturdays, and one speed workout, which I don't like doing, but I know as I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot slower. And then 2 just regular runs and some strength training. So I'm hoping to have at least like 5 days of some type of specific towards this goal. So.
Okay, I guess that leaves me. It's a tough act to follow. I didn't prepare to say anything, but I was going to do this either way because it's Elena's baby. But you know, I found it really cool to read the paragraph, not the paragraph, whatever the explanation of what Black Girls Run is about, as I was signing up. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm not a natural runner. I grew up playing a lot of sports, and running was a big part of that. And training to play sports was, you know, you did the running to chase the ball or the guy with the ball or whatever. And now, unfortunately, I'm in my late 30s, and that sports aren't a big part of my life anymore, especially with COVID. So, yeah, I've just been feeling less healthy and less active, and COVID sort of exacerbated that because you're at home with peanut butter and, you know, beer and soda and bacon, you know, and all this time to eat it. So anyways, I feel like, you know, it's high time to get more active, and also having it dovetail with a movement about supporting the Black community and getting people in that community who feel alienated, and we are reminded for like the 40th time that's how they feel and that's what's going on. I'm just really glad that that's actually getting some traction now, and people are thinking about it and talking about it. And if being part of this is, you know, continues that conversation, I think that's a good thing. And I'm happy to be involved just for that reason. You know, for my personal goal, I'm going to be, I pledged to run 50 miles in the month of September. I figured that would be 12 miles a week plus a couple of days. That's a lot for me. You know, that's running 3 miles every other day, or something like that. Or, you know, if I can ramp up and do more, then maybe I can do more. But it's good for me, and good to get the dogs out and running. But yeah, it's fun to be part of a community, especially in these times. So I'm looking forward to it.
So my goal as well, you know, I thought a lot about what mileage would be meaningful, why I was doing this. I mean, I, of course, was part of building this fundraiser, and of course why that's meaningful as a clinic. But for me personally, I know that there are so many emotional challenges right now, not the least of which is seeing what's happening during the Black Lives Matter movement and just the heartbreak that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, and really wanting to somehow be more involved, somehow recognize pieces where maybe I haven't been a good enough ally, or maybe haven't done my work in figuring out how I can be more of a support, and just a way of being a little bit more involved. And I also think from a community and patient aspect, I see people feeling more alienated and alone and stressed, I think, than I've ever seen in my practice. And so bridging those two things together, where there's an organization that's completely about building community, thinking about wellness goals for all, and especially for those who haven't felt as much like there's a space that's made them feel like they belong in a running community. I know that transfers to so many different groups. I've had clients who are part of the LGBT community who feel like walking into a gym isn't welcome when they see some big bros getting swole. So I think that there's a lot of different pieces about this that are really personally meaningful to me. And then when I selected my goal, and kind of going into our injury prevention segment after this, I am a year out of ankle surgery. And so I tried to think of what would be a goal for me. And my goal, and something I work with a lot of my clients on, is not pushing myself past the mileage goal that I gave myself. And that goal being a way of allowing myself to feel I am enough with the miles that I do. I talk about that a lot with clients, and sometimes we have a harder job of doing it for ourselves. So I chose a goal that's below the mileage that I could max out at, which is 120 miles for the month of September. My goal is not to go beyond that, because I think it's really important that we listen to our bodies a little bit more, honor our stages of recovery and healing. And I'm going to actually try to implement that, because I do a good job of doing it for others, and sometimes a harder job of doing it for myself. So that's what my goal is going to be about. And I'll open it up to Sharon.
So first, let me just say I really appreciate the vulnerability and honesty and transparency that you guys are sharing today. It's really motivating, and it says a lot about, I think, what this community is going to grow to be, in terms of being a place where people can come together and motivate each other, and really get a lot of value out of it, outside of just the content that you've had prepared, but kind of bridging those conversations, and more importantly those relationships. So Suzanne talked about the mental health piece of running and exercise, and that is absolutely critical. That's one of the reasons that I do it. Obviously I want to be able to eat more donuts and drink more wine, but it's the relationships that I've formed with the women that I've been running with over the past 6+ years. And so my goal coming into the month of September will be to just be a stronger runner. And so I know that there are certain muscle groups within my body that are a little weak right now. So really kind of thinking about that full body strengthening, thinking about how to use my core and strengthen my core. Thinking about how to, really strengthen, certain muscles that I'm not using well in my legs, so that, when I am running, I am kind of working through some of those changes that my body is going through, as I, I'm starting to age, and my body's starting to change a little bit. And really just kind of paying attention to what I can do, and backing off a little bit when I know that I'm getting into a space where I might be compromising myself and my health. And so just kind of coming to grips with that. So kind of like you, just kind of understanding your limitations and honoring that, right? So that's my goal.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and I love that. And I think anyone watching this is probably going to notice there are some really common themes through the group, and I appreciate Sharon touching on honoring limitations, and that's actually The bit I wanted to branch into is keeping ourselves well as we go through this next month, because it's one thing to create a goal, but then it's another thing to honor the body that comes into that month, right? Meeting our body where it's at, I think is something I learned from a mentor, and I've really tried to take into my practice, and it's always a lot harder to honor with ourselves. So I think one I wanted to, rather than touch on, because there are so many different injury prevention discussions we could be having, and hopefully some of those will come out through the next month. And for anyone participating, we would love to be a resource for individual things that you might be concerned about. So don't feel like you have to be shy about reaching out to us if you have a specific concern coming up over this next month. But I wanted to go into top several habits that I see people come in with when they come in with an injury. And some of those things that I almost am kicking myself that I didn't get to them sooner before they became a patient in here. And one of those, when we think about the 30-day challenge, we've heard about mileage goals, and we've also heard about just kind of different overarching wellness goals for the next month. And I think I want to kind of touch on that piece a little bit, because I know I have a few people who are going, I'm going to do, blank amount of miles, regardless of what happened over the last several months. And I love that. I think it's really important that we push our bodies. I always love the person that comes in who injured themselves pushing themselves versus never really being willing to get up off the couch. So I want to honor the weekend warriors, but also be mindful about our progressions. So many of you might have heard about the rule of 10%. And that 10% is how we increase from a week-to-week standpoint from where our regular fitness is. So that might mean over the last 2 weeks, I didn't do a lot of running. But this next week, I'm feeling ready. I want to get out there. I want to go. I need to kind of think about the cumulative load, how I prepared myself over the last 2 weeks to get to that week's mileage. So that might mean if I haven't done much in the last month, I might want to be a little bit more mindful about slowly building into that, because that's one of the biggest things that I see is this all or nothing, getting into our wellness goals and not really honoring how we did to prepare for that. So if you think on a week-to-week basis, and feel free to reach out to any of the physical therapists to kind of help if you do have some questions about building your progressions. And one of that is just with, okay, I have never run before. How do I begin running? And that's a very big thing to have. So we have quite a few resources in just beginning a running program. And that's just for the general population. And even for my more experienced runners, I see the same thing happen. They were sick for a couple weeks. They know they have a race coming up. Well, now they're just going to hit the pavement and go. And that's great. I honor that mentality and I love that mentality. But we also need to think about, is our body ready for that next progression? The second thing, and I love that Suzanne touched upon this, is strength. So when we are up on our feet, it's wonderful, but how we are building our muscles, how we are preparing ourselves, and creating variability in the way that we're preparing our body for those miles is incredibly important. Often there's a old stigma in running, and I hope that a lot of this is stigma reducing over this next month around building large muscles for running. And even how we should honor more the miles versus the time that we spend with our weights or body weight progressions. And one thing to note about that is they've actually been shown that runners who did a strength building program the day before one of their longer runs often actually hit their PR versus those who didn't. So strength actually becomes one of our biggest injury reduction pieces and also one of our biggest performance pieces. Another thing, runners love their stretches. I honor that. But when they did a really fascinating study and they put individuals into two groups, they had a group that did just stretching and no strengthening, and then a group that did strengthening and no stretching, and then evaluated their injury risk and injury prevalence following that. The group that did the strength building and zero stretching had fewer injuries. So when we think about what we're doing when we're running, and if we're afraid of injury when we're running, sometimes just sitting on the ground and stretching our hips out isn't teaching our body about what it needs to be doing when we're up there and supporting it to accept all of our body weight every time we're landing. Thinking about what is our balance like. continually fly through the air and land on one leg when we run. We don't really think about it that way. And some of us might be like, I'm definitely not flying. But whatever's happening, your balance is a component of that. And strength is a component of balance. And I'd really like to touch on that piece because I just don't see enough strengthening in the running community. And we would love to provide any simple resources in just helping you build a strength program. Now, if your big program over this next 30 days is to keep building your mileage up, you might want to think about what that strengthening looks like. It may not be the time to suddenly adopt a very heavy strengthening routine. It might just be an opportunity to go, okay, how often am I challenging my big muscle groups? How often am I working on my smaller muscle groups? And Sharon touched on that a little bit. So thinking about all the different things that go into it and how we can provide them a little bit more support. And then I think one of the final pieces is understanding how many factors come into our daily run, how we slept, how we ate, and I think one of the most key pieces, especially in these times, is our stress levels. So we know that stress releases so many different hormones in the body. Some of those heighten the pain experience. Some of those actually make us more prone to injury. So they affect tissue healing, how we recovered from our run the day before, how we are using oxygen, so our VO2 max, our VO2 efficiency. So one of those pieces, and Lori's going to touch on this on the 19th in much greater detail, but I certainly want to touch on it before we get into this next big month, is honoring that there might be more happening for your body right now than ever in your body's history. So I think just taking in all those different factors, thinking about that really hard conversation you saw, or I think these days what you saw on the news, what's happening in your state and in your community, and maybe listening to, it's okay if you planned mileage, but what we would prefer over these next 30 days is not a number, but you getting to that final day and knowing that you did it in ways that really honored you and where you're at. So those are some really huge pieces that I just wanted to touch on before we launch into this next month. And I think the conversation with Ty at the end of the month about footwear, all those pieces are so important. But when we think about the resilience of the system, it should be bigger than a shoe. It should be bigger than just a strengthening routine, that it's multifactorial. And as much as you would like, I just want to reiterate us as a resource to start to think about some of the ways that we can support you through the next 30 days. We would love to do that. And then the final bit I want to touch on is variability. So I see a lot of runners go out, especially when we're going to say, okay, I'm going to do this many miles over a given week. What is the variability in stress that you're putting into your system? Suzanne touched on this in beginning to incorporate speed workouts. Now that may not be the right step for you, but not you, Suzanne, but you who's listening. But honoring what different types of runs you're doing. Maybe some of those are interval runs where you're beginning to push your pace a little bit. So you're gonna run a little faster, but maybe building in some slower blocks, so some tempo runs. Maybe one day I know running with Scout and Stella, our pups, that turns into a much slower run with a lot of distractions and a lot of stops. But I love those runs because they're different. I'm a lot more in touch with everything around me and what's going on versus just my get out and go mileage. And then also thinking about terrain. So all these different things, and variability has actually been shown to be one of the biggest pieces for injury prevention. Not creating the same repetitive stress in the body over mileage through a week, but building a lot of different, I can run on cement, I can run on pavement, I can have some grass, I can have some dirt, I have a little incline, and in Seattle, maybe some very big inclines. So just thinking about all those different pieces and how can you begin to build some variability. And I'm gonna end it there, but throughout this next month, please check in on the Facebook page. Always feel free to contact Stride if you have any specific questions. And I just want to pass it off to the group for one last check-in if anyone wanted to add anything to what I wanted to say.
I will just say I am a point of contact that anyone involved can reach me at. I've been the one that's sending all the emails. So if you haven't seen my name attached to it, you can always reach me at admin@strideseattle.com. And yeah, for any questions or concerns that anyone has, or need me to connect with Elena or other physical therapists, just, let me know. So we're here to make, help and encourage and empower each other. So we're all very excited to finally get this going and get out there and move.
I just want to say thank you to Levi, to Elena, and to Sharon for really organizing this and coordinating it. I know all the work you guys have done. I'm so grateful for you guys doing this. And thank you for my little motivation boost. I'm really excited to get out for my run today.
Yeah, I'm excited too, and I think that I really enjoy the tips that you shared, Elena. I think those were really helpful. Again, I've been running for a while, but I learned something new today. So thank you for sharing that. It was really helpful.
Of course, Sharon, and thank you so much for joining us. I think it's one of those pieces where we were so hopeful not just to pick an organization that meant a lot to us, but to begin to build community and collaboration. And I know we're really excited to hopefully become allies, not just for the local chapter, but for the national chapter, and continue to educate and grow ourselves, because we know we need to do that to be a really important ally for our community. So I just want to thank everyone. Bon chance as you go through this next month. We can't wait to hear about any of your updates. And like we said, just please feel free to check in. If you want to share that you just did your longest run that you've ever done, if you just did your slowest run that you've ever done, if you just had a really great walk with the dogs and want to share a picture and communicate, this is so much just about building community. So we're looking forward to hearing your stories and seeing you guys out on the trails. So thanks again, y'all.